Good morning. Good morning or afternoon or evening even. Whenever you're listening to this, welcome to Let's Talk Common Sense with me, Mike Omani. It feels like we are in some dystopian future here. I'm in my kitchen sending you out sound waves. It is, of course, I forgot the day now. I mean, someone was meant to be keeping count and they've lost count. But essentially, it's the third week now of the government-mandated lockdown. We are all most certainly in our homes, apart from essential workers, and it's been a very, very interesting week. Before we go into all the lovely things we want to talk about today, I should probably introduce you and welcome you to the podcast. This is Let's Talk Common Sense with me, Mike Omni, a podcast brought to you by the Common Sense Network, which is a news network where we create online. I was going to say offline, but we haven't done that for a bit. We create online spaces for people who don't see eye to eye to come together and to learn from each other. We combat polarization. And let me just start at the top end of this podcast by saying thank you. Thank you for listening to us. I'm aware that, everything is just crazy right now, right? So for those of you who have found time to listen to our podcast, to read our articles, I really must say a massive thank you. And please let us know. It can be very difficult to know who's listening to the podcast. So the hashtag is LTCS, or Let's Talk Common Sense. And if you're on Twitter, just send us a message. Let us know you're listening. Let us know we're not alone. But yeah. Hello, welcome. Hope you are doing well. Of course, if you want to find out what's happening with the coronavirus, we've got a section on our website, tcsnetwork.co.uk, where you can go on to find out what's happening with the coronavirus. Now, we should probably just start with some breaking news, which everyone seems to know now because everyone's super focused on news, but I can give you some more information about. The first one, of course, is that just yesterday, our Prime Minister in the late hours of the night was admitted into hospital over kind of continuing coronavirus symptoms. We reported a couple of days ago that the Prime Minister had tested positive for COVID-19 after we think he was in the hospitals on the front lines shaking the hands of coronavirus patients. He actually admitted that during one of the daily briefings, and no way he catches coronavirus. And just yesterday, he was admitted into hospitals for tests 10 days after testing positive. Downing Street say it's because he has persistent symptoms, including the temperature. And just to keep us all kind of calm, they've let us know that it's only a precautionary step taken on the advice of his doctor. The Prime Minister remains in charge of the government, but the Foreign Secretary is expected to chair the coronavirus meetings happening this Monday morning. Mr. Johnson is expected to stay overnight and is having what has been described as a routine test, according to a tweet by Laura Kunsberg from the BBC. In a statement, a Downing Street spokesperson said, on the advice of his doctor, the Prime Minister has been admitted tonight into the hospital. So we're hoping he's going to be okay. I mean, irrespective of what your political dispositions are, it's never a good thing that people are sick, and we just hope the Prime Minister's well, at least so he can be scrutinized, for the government's approach to coronavirus. But also, he's a human being. And if anything, if that's the one thing that these kind of pandemics should help us understand, I think that's a good thing. We're all human beings. Behind all our political argumentations, we're all just fallible, and we're all at the behest of this virus. So, I doubt he listens to the podcast, but we're wishing you well, Prime Minister. We're wishing you well. Hope you get well soon. I'm just gonna have a sip of tea. Now, just yesterday, equally, we had an update from Her Majesty the Queen. In her broadcaster statement, she let us know, I think the headline all the different news outlets are running with is, "We'll meet again." And in this, in her speech, she recalls the World War II song in a bid to kind of lift our spirits whilst we're all in lockdown. She's drawn from her wartime experience to kind of channel this wartime spirit telling us to all remain united and resolute. It was very interesting, all the different memes that came up on Twitter about the speech. It was interesting because I thought to myself, like, is this helpful in any way? And I think for some people it will be helpful. I have a friend in the House of Lords who often speaks about, his love for the Queen, and the idea that the Queen allows this kind of continuity, in times of national crises. That's when the Queen kind of shines and the royal family shine, because they can be the emblem of continuity and the emblem of stability. And in this historic address recorded in Windsor Castle, where told she's social distancing, she says, together we're going to tackle this disease, and that she wants to reassure us that if we remain united and resolute, we will actually overcome it. Now, some did find the speech very moving. I saw folks online saying, this is so moving, this is absolutely moving. Someone said they cried, which I don't know if it's an exaggeration. I mean, even the deepest royalist, I'm not sure, would cry. I mean, it was just an update, but but hey, if you're crying, why not? Essentially, she also said that we should take comfort, so that we might still be able to endure better days. And then she says, we will return. She says we will meet again. She said, it's very, very interesting, because what she's doing here is trying to help us remember our past, and to use that to remember to kind of work on how we react in the present, and then I guess to think about our future as well. So that was very interesting. I thought it was a good speech. You can still watch it online. I think we've tweeted about it, so if you go on TCS Network on Twitter, you can find out all about that speech. Now, in a slightly funnier, well, it's not really funny, but it's quite interesting, because one of the big hallmarks and features of this whole period has been about, well, how do we police the lockdown? So in the last podcast, and if you haven't listened, go ahead and do so, I discussed the coronavirus bill and the kind of unprecedented powers it gives to the police to do whatever they want, not whatever they want, but essentially to use common sense, as the police chief said, in enforcing the lockdown rules. Now, you should need no reminding, but the lockdown rules include going out only for essential items, or for your one outing a day of exercise, going to shop for essentials. And pretty much that's it. That's the only reason she should go out. You remember Boris Johnson saying. However, this is quite an interesting story. The Scotland Chief's medic, Catherine Calderwood, has quit after she broke the coronavirus lockdown by making 2 trips to her holiday home. Now, she's the chief medical officer in Scotland, and she had to resign because of just all the crazy calls people were making. She's 51, and she was pictured walking with her family near her coastal holiday home in Aylesbury, Fife, on Saturday. She acknowledged that, having visited the home twice in the last 2 weeks, that she was sorry and something she shouldn't have done. The police visited her in the morning and told her that, like, the laws apply to everybody, even though you're the chief medical officer, you can't just go to your holiday home. Now, this all came 2 days after she tweeted a picture of her family all clapping for the NHS. She, later on, initially she didn't want to resign. Actually, she was kind of saying she's not going to go, but she's had to resign. She told us she's deeply sorry for her actions and the mistakes she's made. And it was just interesting because I think, well, are they making an example out of her? I mean, yes, she shouldn't have gone to her holiday home, but if she's the chief medical officer, is this the time to be calling for her resignation? I mean, come on, folks. Come on, this is not the time for the petty, British thing we often do sometimes, where you open your window, you see your neighbor doing something that's not regulated, and then you call the police. Oh, come on, folks. We are in the middle of a crisis. Right? So that was just an interesting story. But of course, coronavirus continues to dominate the headlines. I was talking to some of our journalists this week, asking them, well, we've got a podcast coming up, any interesting stories, entertainment stories, and everyone's like, there's nothing entertaining. All that's happening is lots of celebrities are on Instagram Live. They are going live on Instagram and sharing their boredom, I guess, with their fans. It's quite interesting, actually, because a discussion with my housemate over the week helped me understand that it must be really tough for celebrities who thrive off kind of walking around and having adoring people. They have to just be online. So they must be reading the comment section. So if ever you wanted to get the attention of a celebrity you're into, or some sort of public figure, now's the time to comment, because I don't care how disciplined they are. They must be reading their comment section at this time. So as such, if you'd like to make your voice heard, please do so now. Now, one big debate that's kind of opened up is, how do you make the most of this coronavirus season? I had some students emailing me over the week saying, well, can we write for you? And are there opportunities? And the answer was yes and no. But a bigger debate has been, well, how do you entertain the kids, or how do you entertain, just yourself? And there's been this even bigger debate opening up about what streaming software should you sign up to, and. And I know that it's interesting. These are definitely first world problems, right? Of course, there are some people who are not in the position to even think about this. And of course, our heart goes out to them. These are people who are losing loved ones, and people who are struggling, the self-employed, the folks who are being put off work. And, and our heart really does go out to them. We've put together a whole section on our website called Common Sense on Coronavirus. So if you want to find out coronavirus news that's not scaremongering, that's not baiting you for clicks, and just find out information about what you can do about finances and stuff like that, and head over to tcsnetwork.co.uk. But for those who are looking for entertainment and something to do at this time, there is now this debate about streaming software. So you'll know that Disney Plus released their streaming software called Disney released their streaming software called Disney Plus. Of course, you've got Netflix, and you've got Apple. What's it called? I think, is it called Apple Plus? I imagine it's called Apple Plus or Apple TV or something like that. And then you've got some coming soon, like HBO Max. I think Hulu have one as well coming up soon. And there's just lots and lots of debate about which one to go for. So I thought I would have a discussion. And you can let us know. Maybe you already subscribed to one. Let us know why you think it's the best. Because I read an article today on Tech Radar, which kind of listed the top 10 you ought to think about. Now, some of them I have, and some of them I just don't think it's worth your time, quite frankly. So you've got Netflix, and Netflix has come out as number one. For lots of different reasons. Now, it's mainly because it's compatible with every device, pretty much. You get a 1 month free trial, and you can run 1 to 4 simultaneous streams. Netflix have, of course, original movies, multi-device support, and I guess quite affordable in the UK. It's only £5, and they've got a massive selection of options. Everyone knows Netflix. There's very little I need to do with Netflix to kind of tell you about it. Now, Amazon Prime is one most people don't know they have Amazon Prime. So I had no clue. I just had never thought about it until I thought, hold on a minute, if I have Amazon Prime, then I must have Amazon Prime Video. So I went on Amazon Prime Video and I realized, oh gosh, I haven't seen a show called The Expanse, which, I mean, this is not a paid advertisement in any way, but you should check it out. It's a really good series. It's also compatible with lots of different platforms like Android, Apple, Windows, Roku, PlayStation, so on and so forth. The free trial, again, is a month, and you can get about 3 simultaneous streams going. They have a wide array of Amazon originals, which is amazing. It's really good for kids. They've got a big collection of films. However, my only issue is that their interface just isn't that interesting. It's not as good as Netflix, I would say. But that's another thing to think about. Again, it's very affordable. It's only something like £7 or £8 a month, something like that. But bear in mind, you don't just pay for Amazon Prime Video. You pay for Amazon Prime. So with that fee, you can also get your deliveries super quick. That is one interesting thing about the generation we live in. Like, there was one time I tried to order something, and it said delivery day was in like 7 days, and I got so angry. I thought, what 7 days? Are you joking? Now, that's obviously ridiculous, because 7 days is actually very, very good. So, that's just me being difficult. Of course, there's Hulu. And the Hulu is where you want to go to for all the big name TV shows, as it were. Again, it's very cheap. It's only something like £4 or £5 a month. They've got a very good selection of TV shows and good original shows, but it has commercials, and you can only have one stream, so that's the only issue with that one. Now, Disney Plus is the new arrival, which everyone's really kind of getting excited about, mainly because Disney, on its launch, because of their huge catalog, when they launched, they had this massive amount of shows already available on the stream, which makes it super, super interesting. Now, Disney Plus is the home for Disney and Disney shows and Disney movies. It's compatible on PS4, Xbox, Samsung, Roku. Great content. 4K is included, so you can watch all these different shows we're mentioning. All the different shows on their platform in 4K, which is just ridiculous. The price is very, very competitive because, like I said, it's only £6 a month. There's still some movies missing, which they're going to add. Obviously, they have a massive catalog, and it's all family-friendly content. Literally, every show on there is family content. Now, the interesting thing about Disney Plus is it doesn't feel like it's trying to, be the main TV streaming platform. Instead, it's like a family-friendly options that lives alongside Netflix and Amazon Prime. So it's something that you can afford. £6 on top of whatever you're paying is always interesting. And lastly, you've got YouTube TV. Now, there are other ones that I won't consider, but YouTube TV is interesting. It's basically great for live TV streaming, I guess. You can watch it on the go. You got YouTube Red original services. It is a bit pricey. I don't actually have the price to hand, but I know it's quite pricey. But there you go. Now, these are all things you can look at, you can subscribe to, and hopefully it will just make your time self-isolating, quarantining just that bit better. Of course, if you're thinking, these shows are boring, I want the Common Sense Network, well, you can go on our YouTube channel where we actually release videos pretty much every day now, or every other day. We have lots of interesting thought pieces. Something called Editor's Desk, which is essentially myself talking about just news items and interesting issues throughout the week. Only about 3 or 4 minutes every other day or so. But we also have a massive catalog, believe it or not, of just videos, because some of you may not know, but we are 2 years old, 2.5 years old, 2 years. Something like that. We've been to a number of different universities, ran numerous live shows in universities. We've done lots of independent events, which some of you have obviously been to, and some of you who haven't. As soon as we come out of lockdown, you've got to come along. I would love a chance to meet you and discuss politics, discuss current affairs, discuss the news, all the exciting stuff, right? And so we've got videos from all of those things that we haven't quite shared yet. So go on our YouTube channel. Again, it's the Common Sense Network on YouTube, and you can have a look at all these different things, and hopefully it's entertaining to you. You find it interesting. I have no doubt you'll enjoy them actually, because there's some really interesting things on there. Now, folks, it's a short podcast today because I have no guest. It's so sad because we had so many amazing guests just lined up that they're not gonna be on the podcast. Well, they will be when we come back out of lockdown. What's interesting to report to you, and I'm not sure whether it's good news or bad news, because you have to be very careful these days online. Everyone's reporting all sorts of different things, but LBC reported just yesterday about the R0 value. Now, I watched Contagion a couple of days. Just yesterday, and it was very interesting to hear them talk about the R0 value, which essentially means how many people you infect if you have an illness, and that's how they judge the kind of virability, but also just how dangerous an illness of a viral infection is. So something like the flu has an R0 of 1, which means if you have the seasonal flu, chances are you're going to infect one person, whereas other ones had R0 values of 6 or 4, so on and so forth. And essentially, what people are monitoring now is when we get the R0 value for coronavirus to 1 or under 1, because that's when you kind of know, okay, we've got it under control. So they reported that one of the results came out from a batch of testing that indicated that we were on a downward trend with that R0 value. So that's somewhat good news. Of course, it's way too early. As I said in the last podcast, you cannot draw conclusions from that. You kind of have to give it a few weeks or so to see what the trend really is. But I'm hoping very, very soon we're out like everybody else. But obviously I want us to be out when we're safe. You know, I've heard some sad stories of people losing loved ones, and so I wouldn't want us to be out too early to have that exacerbated in any way. But you know, we're hoping for the best. We're trying our best as a network to keep you updated whilst you're indoors. So please take some time. If it's your first time listening, thank you for listening. If you're a frequent listener, thank you again. Remember to let us know you're listening. I would love a chance to speak to you. And the hashtag is LTCS, or Let's Talk Common Sense. Of course, we have an array of content online which you can subscribe to. Please do so. Please look after yourself. Please be safe. Wash your hands. Continue social distancing. You know, we shouldn't be here for much longer. But let's ensure we keep on obeying those government mandated rules. As ever, thank you for listening, and I look forward to having a dialogue, because it's meant to be a dialogue, isn't it? I look forward to having a dialogue with you next week. Thank you, folks. Have a great one.